How has this practice of political advertising grown? How has it become more sophisticated?
Well, two things have happened. One is the landmark 2010 so-called Citizens United case for the Supreme Court, the famous ruling that said basically corporations are people. But one part of that also allowed the establishment of so-called issue advocacy groups, where it was unlimited the amount of money they could spend, didn't have to be direct about disclosing donors. There are a lot of loopholes in the laws. So you have all these anonymous organizations with wonderful names like, Americans for Progress, a real one in Florida, the Foundation for Excellence in Education, where the name just makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside. Often you can't tell who they are. The second thing that's happened is advertising masquerading as endorsement from friends and people or organizations we trust. And that is all over social media, where you have often anonymous or misattributed sources looking like they're friends of yours or endorsed by friends of yours, when actually these can be very nefarious, such as bots from infiltrators outside of the US. So a lot of the, quote, sophistication is basically the ability to avoid accountability and not be clear about where the information comes from.
And that speaks to a broader issue of just how do voters discern truth from fiction? Are there some basic smell tests?
The first thing we can do is combat confirmation bias. And that is scrutinize every ad, every bit of information that comes across, even if we like it. We tend to be uncritical about things we agree with. Well, those deserve scrutiny too. Second, research before you react. A lot of ads are simply designed to inflame emotions. And the idea there is to get people fired up so that they act in desired ways, such as voting for a particular candidate or against a candidate. Third thing is try to identify the source of the ad. If you can't find the source, or if you don't understand what the source is, then don't pay attention to it. Fourth, do not get information about issues or candidates from social media, okay? Social media is not a news source. Social media is the group of people gossiping around the water cooler, okay? There are huge problems with that. Take everything you get there with a big grain of salt. And finally, rely on fact checkers.
What are some of the most egregious examples of false political ads this election season, ones that just jump off the page?
I think the winner right now is from the Donald Trump campaign. And it's an ad talking about how President Trump has taken control over the coronavirus and that he's saving the country from coronavirus. There is a video clip in there from Dr. Anthony Fauci saying, in essence, I can't imagine anyone doing anything more, okay? So there's that clip that makes it appear that Fauci is endorsing Trump. Anthony Fauci himself comes out and says, hey, wait a minute, I didn't authorize that. It's taken totally out of context. When you see where that came from, number one, the quote is from March in an interview on Fox News before any plans were developed. Number two, Fauci was referring to himself and the scientists he works with, that nobody could work any harder. He wasn't even referring to the president or anything political. So here you have an ad that takes a quote out of context, misuses it without the permission of the person who said it, and the entire quote is repudiated by that very person. I tell you what, that may set a new standard in just egregiously problematic political ads, at least in recent history. So I would suggest, first of all, using multiple sources to verify or challenge information, such as public radio or public TV, where they're not beholden to a specific commercial interest. I also think it's a good idea to check international sources because they're not embroiled in all of the political bickering that American media is in the midst of. It's like a recipe, right? A good recipe usually isn't just one ingredient. It's much more nourishing by combining a lot of different ingredients, variety in your food groups. Get variety in your information groups, and you're going to have a better quality of information that comes out of it.